All right, today we're going to dig into a stock that's got a lot of people talking, for better or for worse. Aspire Biopharma, ticker ASBP. This is a wild story. You've got huge ambitions, some really promising science, and a stock price that has just fallen off a cliff. So let's figure out what's going on.
Yeah, that's the number that says it all, isn't it? Minus 82%. In just 3 months, ASBB's stock has been absolutely crushed. I mean, a collapse like this is massive, and it's got investors in a total panic, or maybe, just maybe, seeing the buying opportunity of a lifetime.
And that really is the million-dollar question we're tackling today. How does this happen? What's going on with this company? Is this thing a sinking ship? Or is this that moment of peak fear right before a legendary comeback? The report we're breaking down has some serious clues. Okay, so let's get our bearings and talk about the company at the heart of this whole drama. Aspire Biopharma, ASBP, is what you call a microcap company. All that really means is that on Wall Street, it's tiny. We're talking a total value of just over 5 million bucks. And right now, it is in a real crisis. It's even facing the very real threat of getting delisted from the Nasdaq. If that happens, you get kicked off the big league exchange, and that can just torpedo your credibility and make it way harder for anyone to trade your stock. You know, this right here really gets to the heart of it. It's this incredible conflict. On one side, you have this little company with a drug platform that could honestly be a game changer. But on the other, its stock is so beaten down that its very survival as a public company is up in the air. This is what a high-stakes situation looks like, folks. So despite that absolutely brutal stock chart, there's a really good reason people are still paying attention to ASBP. Let's flip the coin for a second and look at the actual fundamentals, the science, and the business plan that give you a reason to be hopeful. And this just shows you why it's not a simple story, right? The company has a patent-pending technology, and here's the kicker, it's already gotten positive results from a phase 1 trial. They've got a clear roadmap for their FDA submission, they've locked down a pretty big line of credit to keep the lights on, and they're even getting their spending under control. These are solid, real signs of progress. Okay, so let's zero in on this because it's so important. For any biotech company, the clinical trial data is its lifeblood. And this result, right here, is the foundation for anyone who's optimistic about the company. But you might be thinking, what's the big deal about a fast-acting aspirin? Well, think about it. If someone's having a heart attack or a killer migraine, every single second counts. A drug that can deliver a powerful dose of a proven medicine faster than anything else out there? That's not just a small improvement. That could become the new gold standard of care. We're talking a huge potential market. It proves their core science is legit, which is the one thing you absolutely have to have for any chance at success. But hang on. If the science is so good, why is the stock in the gutter? Now we have to look at the technicals, which paints a totally different and frankly a much scarier picture. This is what's freaking the market out. So just a quick primer here, technical indicators are basically how analysts try to read the market's mood. They're looking at things like price trends, how many shares are being traded, all to get a feel for the stock's psychology and guess where it's headed next. And when it comes to ASBP, that language is screaming, get out. The report is crystal clear on this. Pretty much every single technical indicator is flashing a bearish signal. Bearish is just Wall Street talk for pessimistic. The data is telling you the price is probably going to keep falling. This stock is in a deep, steep downtrend. Now, looking at a chart like this, it can feel like a lot. I get it. But you don't have to be a trading genius to understand the takeaway. This wall of data is like market gravity, just pulling everything down. The report calls it a punishing bearish thrust. For an investor, it's got to feel like you're trying to swim against a monster current. It doesn't matter how much you believe in the company, the market sentiment is just relentlessly dragging that stock price lower. And if that wasn't chaotic enough, get a load of this number. On one single day back in November, more than 500 million shares were traded. That's over 1,100% higher than average. This isn't just some quiet selling. This is a frantic, high-volume war between buyers and sellers, and it's just making everything feel even more unstable. So, we've got promising science on one hand and these absolutely terrifying charts on the other. How on earth does this play out? Well, the report takes all this messy, conflicting data and boils it down into 3 possible scenarios for ASBP's future. And here's what those futures could look like. In the best case, or bullish, scenario, some good news hits and the stock rockets up towards 20 cents. But in the worst case, bearish scenario, it's a total wipeout, with the stock collapsing down to just 5 cents. And somewhere in the middle, the stock just kind of treads water, waiting for something to happen. That massive gap between a potential home run and a total catastrophe is exactly why this whole thing is so tense. So, this brings us to the bottom line. After you weigh all the hope from the science against all the fear from the charts, what's the final takeaway from this whole analysis? The report actually boils all that technical data down into one score, 62.5. That's officially rated as neutral bear. So it's not a complete 5-alarm fire, but the needle is definitely pointing towards the negative side of things, backing up all that weakness we saw in the charts. This quote from the report's conclusion just nails the tension, doesn't it? You've got that powerful bearish thrust pushing down, but there's always the chance of a reversal. But with that crazy volume and the constant threat of being delisted, well, it means investors have to be incredibly careful. There's literally no room for error here. So here's what you really need to take away from all this. ASBP is the textbook definition of a high-risk, high-reward investment. It's a high-wire act. The potential upside, if their science pans out, is incredible. But there is also a very, very real chance the stock could get crushed by all this technical and regulatory pressure. And that kind of leaves us with one final big thought. You know, this entire industry is built on making huge bets on science that could change the world. Failure is part of the game, but one success can be world-changing. So for a company like Aspire Biopharma, sitting right on that razor's edge between total failure and massive success, you have to wonder, is the biggest risk of all not taking one?